You might say, no matter where you are, just give it a bit. You'll be some other place. All you have to do is just keep hanging out. It keeps changing. No matter, you can't make any conclusions about the future. That's one thing. When this process starts, you can't make any conclusions about what it means. If it's great or it's horrible, that's the secret. Once you get out of that projection, you can come out of this much more quickly. Otherwise, we get thrown into that part of ourselves that keeps getting sucked into the past. The repetition of what we have already known and what we dread or fear, from our past experience. So I was feeling to talk about what I can call direct knowing. What is the quality of direct knowing? I got an email from someone in Europe, and they were saying how they have discovered the presence that I have described, the one that's either all about you, or that's right next to you or right behind you, or the one that's within you. And it's become so tangible that he's experiencing devotion. That the knowingness of the presence is direct. It's not a thought. It's not a focusing. It is an immediacy. So the nature of consciousness, to come to this place where the direct knowing is available to you, is to become free of the defining structures of your ego, at least in the mental plane. There is also direct experiencing, which is then becoming free of the vital structures, that of the vital plane. It's very interesting because in the Gita, there are two types of knowledge that are revealed as the consciousness makes the transition from individuality into universal. This is really where all the shit happens, by the way. Is when you come out of your little narrow sphere of what you've known on the spiritual path, coming to this states of awareness and meditation and the technologies that you come to you. And you are accessing, even in the individual stage, forces that are universal, but you're not yet in the universal. The universal has not yet taken over the task. So the real transition is when the system opens up to universal forces. And that's where all the shit happens, because it's not just your own. Once you open it up to the universal, in the mental and in the vital plane, you're then tapping into the condition of mankind, whoever you happen to be hanging out with or your environment. So you get crapped out, or your issues get activated in extraordinary ways that wouldn't happen when you're still in your individual envelope and you're still in your individual boundary. So in the individual boundary, there is a knowing. You could call it an intuitive knowing or a direct intelligent knowing, one from the awareness, one from the experience. There's very many different types of forms of knowing. Psychic knowing, which is also not mental, but still individual. The psychic is still associated with the ego. Even the intuition is associated with the ego. These are all associated with the individual identity and the three gunas. It is still defining what it is real and what's not real, and who you are as separate in that whole constellation. So in the Gita, the transition is in the 7th chapter, where you come out of the yoga of meditation. Equanimity has come. Great wisdom has come, but you're still an individual. There is this stability. That's the nature of the 6th chapter, is its stability. That's why so many people feel that they've come there, because finally, for all the process they've gone to, they've come to this stability. But it's this stability of the individual. So it's only why it says, the Gita says, only 1 in 1,000 seek on this path, and only a few of those actually come to know me. It's in the 7th chapter. It's called the Yoga of Knowledge and the process of knowing. So you're beginning to discover something that's in your intelligence that is more than what you knew as an individual up until that point. You begin to, recognize truth at the next level, recognize the principles that are in the universal plane. That's what the 7th chapter describes, the elements of the system. The 5 elements in the mind, intellect, and ego, the 8 components. That which is lower, that which is higher, the soul is higher, and then something of the structure of the universe begins. We become interested in how consciousness has evolved and how it's worked and how does it all tie together and how that we're in this process of evolution. That's the sign of the consciousness ready to come out of your own particular individualized story into this wanting to understand how it works overall, beginning to see how it's all interconnected. That's the evidence of the yoga of knowledge and the process of knowing. After the 7th chapter, you go to the 8th chapter. Between and then after the 8th chapter, you go to the 9th chapter. And the 9th chapter is what I'm pointing to tonight. Something in the 9th chapter, it's called the yoga of royal knowledge and royal secret. And this is talking about the direct knowing. This is talking about the direct experience. So what happened between the 7th chapter, when we're coming out of our individual self-realization, knowing ourself, and that stability, and the 9th chapter, where you're in this process of experiencing the field of existence directly. So knowledge in that place is no longer a quiet mind. It's like another mechanism for knowing. It is a direct knowing. It is one of the ways it shows up is recognition, this ability to recognize the truth of something. That can have multiple levels of experience. It could be awe, it could be wonder, it could be magnificence. You could see the direct knowing would let you know how it's all, you would just know the interconnectedness, like leaves on one tree. Each individual, but each part of the same tree. It just begins to reveal itself. This is a reflection of the Brahmanic state that one comes to in the 8th chapter. The Brahman is not a person. It's not a God. It's not a personal universal principle. It's an impersonal principle that's not personal. It's a universal principle that's not personal. It's simply the fabric of consciousness, the radiant consciousness, constantly coming into existence, out of existence, into existence. When we open to the Brahman, when the consciousness makes that transition of opening into the Brahman, the mind stops defining. The mind quits using the usual process of thinking, past and future, and all there is now. This nowness, this immediacy. It doesn't have in that particular state, which comes and goes and comes and goes and happens in different moments in the day or different meditations or experiences that you have. And it is definitely brings an energy to it. It's not that it's actually you're in the energetic field. In the Brahmanic state, the field of the boundary of your separateness opens up and it permeates and it starts creating a shift, a vibrational shift in the quality of the consciousness of you as an individual. And that is what allows you to not only feel the energy in your body, but to directly know that field. So in that case, the direct knowing isn't of anything in particular. It is actually simply to know the Brahman, to know that, manifest expression of the Sat, consciousness, all-pervading matrix in which everything living. This could be called God. For someone who's on the awareness path, this would be God. This would be truth. This eternal immediacy, this direct knowingness, and this vibratory energy that brings you in, holds you in present time. You can't, in this state, dwell on past or project into future. It's revelatory only in the sense like an electronic microscope is revelatory. That means you are that which is knowing, but that which is to be known is being expression of the radiant field of knowing. That's all about you. So you see the tree and the leaves as expressions, as masks of the same Brahmanic principle that you are currently in the state of. So you see it like backlit by this Brahmanic energy. And what happens in that, it's a passive quality. It's just revelatory. You just see the Brahman in that particular form, in that particular person, in that tree, in those leaves. That immediacy has no past or future. And this is the path that prepares us, that opens us up when it's come to sufficient maturity, when it's been able to supersede the habit of our separative story making, our trauma, our belief, our fear projections, and our adaptions. This is what takes over the transformational process, and it makes us divine. The universe finds an entry point into the fabric of our identity and begins to convert it into what it is, which is simply a vehicle for directly knowing and experiencing existence. That means, essentially, we become the Brahman, experiencing itself in existence. So direct knowing is the Brahman experiencing the Brahman in existence. This is the quality of the measure of the consciousness's ability to have, it's already at that point, when that's happening, when that's fairly consistent, then you're no longer a person. You are simply a means by which the universe can manifest itself, so that it can know itself, so that it can experience itself in all existence. You're boundless. You're everywhere. But what allows you to know it is you're sitting on the toilet and you're looking across the wall and you see the radiant Brahman in the wall. You know? You wipe your ass and it's the Brahman who's wiping its ass. It is everything. It becomes a direct knowing, which it has an immediacy. There's no record keeping here, by the way. There's no memory associated with this. The nature of the Brahmanic field, whatever happens in that state, the mind does not know how to hold. It's not meant to be held by this structure, the design of mind and memory, which was a survival strategy, a success strategy, and trying to understand and figure out and solve strategy. This is of a different kind of knowing. It is the immediacy of knowing. So you can be in a Brahmanic condition and not remember that you were. You might when you get back into your old egoic identity. So what the mind would say, well, nothing's happening. I'm still stuck in my egoic identity, not recognizing it's already not in the egoic identity. This can continue for some time because in the direct knowing, there's not necessarily realization. You have not yet realized that you're in an altered state of consciousness. That's the purity of the direct knowing. Other people can say, wow. And you could, while you're speaking, they'll remember you talking about the awe of the tree and the leaves and how it's all interconnected. Or how, it's just, could you see this wall? Do you look at this wall? Can you see that? They don't know what you're talking about, but they can remember you talking like that. And when you come back to normal consciousness and they'll say, do you remember that time? And you'll say, what? I don't remember what you're saying. Then you're truly in the Brahmanic condition. If you're able to remember it, then it's not full. It's not yet complete. That's the pitch of this thing. There's no accomplishment, you see. That which would be accomplished isn't there anymore. It has no benefit in terms of how the ego would measure benefit. Direct knowing is simply something that you become, and the thing that happens as this is a stage. This is why they live in the Himalayas when the 8th chapter comes. The world is a complete illusion. All there is the Brahman. All there is Shiva. All there is that. So none of this is relevant. It's only when you progress further that you begin to realize, oh, I'm in the Brahmatic state. It's because the personality, the person in the body, vibration has to be trained so that it can actually be with being in that state of direct knowing. And then you can remember it, or then you can know, I'm here. This is it. This is what it looks like. And then when somebody speaks of presence, you'll know absolutely what they're talking about, because the Brahmatic field is the presence. And there's no difference between Brahma and Shiva and Vishnu and Krishna. The only difference is the integration in your own personal self, the ability of the individual body to experience what is the field of all-pervading consciousness. So it can be experienced in the heart. So it can be experienced in the vital. It can be experienced in the cells. That is when the full direct knowing becomes direct experience. Immediacy, intimacy, freedom. The personality and the vehicle becomes the means by which the universe can experience itself as you. So, the path forward on the spiritual path isn't an accumulation of knowledge, accumulation of experiences, or comparison to the past so much. Even the stages are only an interim description for someone who's still in mind, to be milestones, markers, to give you some sense that there is a movement. And the movement is the integration. The movement is something that's already happening, but you just haven't been able to move into a full relationship with it, or even know that is what's happening. But there are characteristics, like equanimity, deep silence, being able to sit endlessly, no need to sit or to act, that the consciousness is the same. If it's is the business of the day, or the activity of the day, or if it's sitting in meditation. So one of the conditions of the Brahmatic field is it's all equal. Equanimity is everywhere. There's no higher or lower. They're just different flavors of the same directness, the direct knowing, direct experience. There is no fear when it's going on. There is no self-referencing like, oh, how great this is, or how bad this is, or how attractive that is versus how unattractive that is. Although there can be this experience of gratitude, or this experience we call devotion, which is really not anything but a form of recognition of what's already here. That's becoming to the body, to the heart. Devotion is when the direct knowing is becoming direct experiencing. And this is what the Gita points to as it goes into the 9th chapter of royal knowledge. It's the preparation for the deepening of what has come in the 8th chapter. And there can be lifetimes between these chapters. People can travel between the 6th and the 7th and 8th and the 9th, but really the integration of that may take lifetimes so that they're actually at the 9th chapter, and then the 10th and the 11th will be revealing itself. So when I talk about finding the presence, the advantage of that is the tuning of your consciousness into this immediate form of knowing, which isn't thinking. Moving into relationship through the intelligence with what is right there, right here, right now, versus thinking it or understanding it. It's simple, because all there is presence. It's all about us. It's right next to us, and it's in us. It's vast, unlimited, and it's intimate and personal. And it's as close as the air right around your body. It's as intimate as the energy field within your body. it is not hard to experience it if you've found if you've come to the place in yoga where the mind can grow quiet. Within that field, everything can arise. Whatever's arising in the field of presence, you're going to be able to be in greater relationship with it than if you were in your mind or your intelligence or your psychic. Because there is this immediacy of the presence that burns the error of the content of us, enlivens it, brings it to life, shows itself, shows the darkness versus the brightness of it, reveals the nature of the bondage, reveals the nature of the obscurity, the nooks and crannies of the beliefs, the ideas. We begin to catch ourselves, slipping back into our individualization. And in the process of catching ourselves, we expand the ability of this presence in those parts of ourselves we haven't been able to be with. So, this whole process, therefore, is not therapy. It's not getting better. It's not finding what's hidden, although that can be a start of the process. It is simply deepening in your ability to be with what it is that you haven't known you didn't know how to be with. That's what the immediacy is. Okay. So that's my warm-up. Okay. So you're just ready to deliver the mic, right? Or are you going to want to talk?
Can I say something?
Yes.
The beingness of the Brahmanic state feels like it wouldn't make any deal out of the pattern on the wall. It's just such a normal experience. It's so simple and plain and continuous that, yes, it's spectacular. It's amazing that you're in that state, but it wouldn't be saying, hey, look at this. Can you see this? This is amazing.
It doesn't call your attention to it. It is that which would allow for attention, and then it's your attention that would notice it's there with whatever's in your field. So it's the individual that would notice, oh, why is that wall so radiant? Not recognizing it has nothing to do with the wall. It's the state of consciousness that's experiencing itself, and the wall happens to be in the line of vision.
I was kind of talking about this last night in our youth group that we have.
Oh, yeah, dear. Yeah, the young people group.
Yeah.
That insult to consciousness, right?
Whatever it is, what it is.
Okay.
That it kind of, what I feel that has happened to me is that things that used to be an issue just are completely gone and empty and spacious. So the state isn't something that's like remarkable in any way. It's just that where I was walking through maybe some things that were thorny or catching me or tripping me up, I walk through that same area of my life. There's nothing.
Yeah.
And it takes sort of reflecting on it to go, hey, look at this.
Nothing's there where there used to be something. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's less places where the ego comes up. And so it's easy to kind of be like, forget that you're in that state. And you're just going on, and then you go, wait a minute, everything's just is, and everything's okay, and I just feel okay. And
how different.
Yeah.
That's the sign of spiritual progress, is how different you are even though the world's just the same. It's still the same world. It's just your relationship with it is different. Even your relationship with the inward world of your own story making and your own trauma and your belief and your own reactivity. You're different. It's still there, but you are different. And this is the shifting of the individual identity out of the content into the whatness, into the Brahman. The Brahman, the field of the Brahman, is the whatness, which was obscured, or we call it the self, or the individual purified ego. But it is the Brahman, always. The individualized expression of it is simply the lens. Then if you're just a lens for the one Brahman, well, you don't mean much by itself. You're just another viewpoint. You're just another window in the marketplace. You're just another trinket in the field of all the possible expressions. So we don't take ourselves, the ego loses its relevance other than it's the one who gets to know that.
Yeah, it's like, this is great,
Right.
but it's not like, doesn't have a mission or doesn't have any kind of agenda.
Nope. That's the nature with Brahman. It has no mission. It just is. That's the nature of the awareness that comes to the Brahman, is it's not interested in manifestation. The world is not needing to be any different. It's simply a perception. It's not anything. It's the veil of the Brahman. It is the appearance of that which is all pervading, ever endlessly non-changing. But it's not yet part of creation. It's not evolutionary. It has nothing to do. But it is the foundational basis. That's why it's in the 8th chapter, right at the beginning. Is a foundational basis of consciousness that's no longer personal. It's in that emptiness. It's in that immediacy through which the manifestation can occur. If that wasn't there, then the manifestation, that ability to, through your form, through your body, through the instruments of your body, it would not be able to manifest the Sat Chit Ananda. It could only manifest the Sat or the Chit, but not the Ananda. It wouldn't have the current of the expression of existence, because from the Sat, nothing's changing, nothing moving. Even in the consciousness that's close to the Sat, nothing's changes, nothing moving. It's like the Hiranyagarbhaya. It holds the potentiality of the manifestation, but it has no movement yet. The movement comes once it gets into the domain of the gods. Then it starts channeling. Then it can be experienced. And then we become channels or instruments or collaborators for bringing that into existence, so that the fabric of existence can evolve. Can keep waking up, keep discovering its true nature, its true purpose. But it's an important stage. So presence is everything. If you have gone to presence, then everything is going to continue to progress just fine. Because a presence isn't going to get stuck. If that presence is there, it can get overtaken, it can get obscured, but it's not going to get stuck. The obscurity is going to come up like a wave, and then it will pass. And then you'll come back to presence. And the nature of that, the presence will even be brighter every time a wave of content has come and veiled it. It keeps unfolding through the error of the habituate separate consciousness. And through the experiencing of the error, it transmutes it without any effort on your part other than going through the shit when it arises. And not making anything of it. Not believing it. Not thinking it has to be something that's fixed or solved. The more this Brahmanic consciousness is available, the less effort is required on the journey. And the more spontaneously we unfold, the less we get invested in our own transformation. The less meaningful or the less demanding or insistent it becomes. It's just then shit happening. It's just the arising.
It feels like, in my experience, that the beingness is really everything. And the experience of the world is like this sort of watercolor, temporary, transient thing.
Yeah.
But it's not insignificant. It's not like I want to go to the Himalayas.
Right.
It's beingness in motion.
Correct.
It's just as good.
Just as good.
Action and inaction are the same.
Correct. That's it. That's the nature of the Brahmanic field. And that's the 9th chapter. So the 9th chapter is the royal not directly known. What's it called? And it speaks exactly about what I'm saying in the 9th chapter. To you, the uncavilling, I shall teach this supreme secret knowledge along with the process of realizing it, which will enable you to be free from both good and evil. So I will teach you this supreme secret knowledge along with the process of realizing it. The process takes time. The immediacy, the direct knowing is happening. But the process of realizing you're in direct knowing takes time. So, which will enable you to be free from both good or evil, from having to do anything, from having to change or be better, or to feel a different way than you're currently feeling, or to feel some kind of preferred way, or to be in certain preferred circumstances versus others. All this starts getting burned out in the field of this direct knowing. This is royal knowledge and royal secret, supremely holy, directly experienced, full of virtue, easy to practice, and imperishable. This is when it's just a matter of time. You've stepped off the cliff, and now it's just the falling. So it's good. I mean, you're describing it accurately. And the nature of it is that for those in the room who are still in process, still in this accomplishment, still in this trying to get there or to be significant or be important or be seen, all the other compensating structures, these are not significant. The significance is in this presence, is in this radiant field of immediate, direct knowing and experiencing. This is the means by which everything that has separated you, bound you, created suffering, created limitation, created the compensating structures. Royal secret is that part of the Brahman that is veiled behind your secrets, behind your lies, behind your self-deceptions, behind your strategies for validating yourself, for coming into existence. They're royal. Because when you can perceive the secret, the lie, it reveals the direct knowing that it was hiding. It reveals it's all that, all Brahman. Oh, so I got shit. Look at that. I got angry. Look at that. Oh, look at me. I'm misbehaving. Look at me. I've been telling a lie to myself. Oh, I've been believing that my life is this, but it's really that, and probably isn't even that. It is this movement out of the error, the hidden aspects of our individual structures that we've inherited or been conditioned with. And they become the means by which it reveals itself more fully. So that the directness of the knowing becomes fuller, more immediate, more total. And the individual loses even interest in that happening to itself. See, then the ego just loses its authority, its purpose to keep existing in that miserable separative structure that keeps limiting it, keeps making something outside of itself as the source of its experience. Because the nature of the Brahmanic field is when it occurs, it's absolutely, fulfilling isn't even the right word. It's just that. That's why we call it truth. Truth isn't necessarily fulfilling, it's just true. That's why we can't really language truth, because it's just this immediacy. It's just what actually is the fabric and the vibratory field of what you are, what we all are, and in which even our individuality came out and created a separate coloring, a separate density out of that field. And in the presence, it all dissolves. All these structures, all these constellations, all these constrictions, all these no's, all these resistances just continue to unravel and release the Brahmanic field that's locked up into them, into your consciousness. So that your field, your capacity to be, your capacity to know, your capacity to experience becomes more and more full. So it's not about being good. It's not about attaining heaven. It's not about having right. It's not about making progress. It's not about not making progress. It's not about any of those evaluators, markers. It is simply this immediacy. So this is what you're looking for. You're looking to keep bringing yourself. If you could find something in yourself that is a reflection of what I'm speaking of, you can sense it in your body right now as I speak of it. If you can just feel into what would that direct knowingness be, what this Brahmatic field would be, this vibratory presence that's all about you, that's next to you, that's within you. If you can just feel into that, you're introducing your consciousness to its source. Okay. We should move on. Let's see if there's something else. Bringing it down. And, okay, well, how's that relevant to what I'm going through right now? What Brahmatic field? I know, it's all Greek to me. It sounds to me like just mental talking. I don't get it. It's a waste of my time. I want to be someplace else. I want something else to happen. It shouldn't be like this. I certainly shouldn't be feeling like this. And, you know, it's too bright. It's too cold. It's too dark. It's too uncomfortable. It's, you know, I don't know what the shit you're talking about. Right? Let's bring it down. Let's bring it in. Sahaj. All right.
So,
Go.
yeah, it's feeling somewhat relevant. But I was wondering if you would expand a little bit on what you were saying. There was a talk about the process.
Yes.
Could you expand?
When I was talking about the nature of the secret, the nature of the lie, the nature of the con, the pretense of you, the story of you, the con of you that you believe, and you try to convince other people how good you are, how bad you are, how helpless you are, how needy you are, how capable you are, how much you're in control. The con is the secret. Meeting those things in yourself, what allows you to meet those things is this direct knowing. So the process of it is a matter of like, how do you make room for air is you dig a hole in the ground. And there's more room for air in the hole. So what you do in order to make room for the air is you dig out the dirt. And then you got more room for air. Now, it's not significant. Air doesn't change any. It's just able to go into a place it wasn't able to go into before. That's what making it real is. It's just shoveling the shit. Just shoveling the content. Just recognizing you're making room in the process of meeting what is not allowing the room, which is usually just the resistance, the no, and that which you don't know, you don't know. That which still bounds you, shapes your sense of who you are and what's true or not true. This is that which you're moving. And you move it every time your shovel can reach in. The nature of that shovel is the penetrating direct knowing. So every time you put the attention into where the darkness is, you get the shovel under the dirt, under the unexamined consciousness. You got to kind of force it in. Sometimes the soils are rocky, right? They're dense or dried out and compact. You need a chisel, right? But you're looking for an entry point, because if you can get down deep enough, you can move it. If you get to the source of it, you can move it. So this is an analogy, but because there's so much at every moment, it's whatever is arising. But in this room or in any of our programs, when you are in touch with that which is in resistance, that which is obscured, that's an opportunity to do a little more shoveling. And the nature of the shoveling is just to experience where you are, just to catch the belief system, the thought structures, the idea of yourself and the world, and the reaction and the repulsion, or the vulnerability, the story about what you're experiencing. All of these things can arise and be discovered as royal secret, which would then bring, naturally, reveal the secret. The secret would no longer stay hidden. And then that's royal knowledge. That's the process.
So,
So what you've been
I was
doing
just
all
talking
along.
with Satya just the other day, and we were talking about sort of the retreat instructions have gone from sort of like, go and bait those bad feelings, go and, draw them out, get them to come
To
on.
show
come on,
themselves
like
into the field.
Come on,
Yeah.
it's like whatever. And later it became don't go looking for trouble. And more recently, there's nothing to do. So, so let's say that I'm feeling sort of like I'm in a retreat feeling, right? Okay,
Yeah.
and
Well,
it's like,
I cycle through those stages. By the
right.
way.
I know
You cycle
Or
through
like-
those stages.
Yeah.
So the bottom
sometimes
line of it.
eyeballs start spinning, and
But if the mind tries to follow this, the eyeballs will start spinning.
so what I'm asking,
Yeah.
what I'm asking is
Yeah.
in this particular, in this particular instance, is it better to sort of poke and
It's all three.
yeah, okay.
It's all three. It's whatever will move what's there. Sometimes you've got to stop digging in order to appreciate what has already occurred. Right? If you're always digging, then you're not meeting the what you're making room for.
Okay.
So, but then there are other times where, you're resting in what you've made room for. It's time to start digging again.
Okay.
But you may not realize this within yourself because it may seem that when you're taking the pause in the digging, nothing's happening. Because you no longer have a reference point to recognize you've made more room for that royal truth, royal knowledge. So there's no reference point. So you may be just saying, nothing's happening, nothing happening. Well, the ego will not tolerate nothing happening for very long. And you won't have to go looking for it because it will find you.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the nature of the journey. The principle of truth is it's always expanding itself in existence when you're on the spiritual path. When you've come to presence, once the presence has awakened, it will continue to expand itself to that which is not present, which is not able to be seen. It has its own evolving process in order to establish itself into this existence more fully. So it's an automatic, natural, actually, process of consciousness.
So eventually, it sounds like it's gonna unfold. It's not something like, why don't you make up a chart and see how much you
Correct.
did on today and whether you can
All
do a little
these
more
are
tomorrow.
just to get the collaboration of the ego to stay in the process. Even though if you're consciously engaged in the process, you're a collaborator with it. It goes more smoothly. Otherwise, you may have to spend another 1,000 lifetimes. So if you're collaborating with the process, then you can shorten the amount of time. But yeah, you just hang out in human embodiment long enough and this shit will happen. But it's the amount of time. And there comes a point in truth where it says, hey, I don't see the advantage in staying in untruth, staying in lies, staying in distortion anymore. And we naturally become a collaborator anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So it's inevitable. It's all inevitable, but that doesn't mean that right here, right now, in this situation, you can dismiss it because your aspiration, your longing, is that quality trying to come into existence through the content of you. It's like the dirt is saying, reveal me, show me, take me out of this hole, bring me into the light, coming out of the darkness. That's what aspiration is. That's what longing is that which is bound, seeking to be free. So when that happens, then there's a natural collaboration that comes. So we keep having understanding of the nature of the process allows for that which is bound to continue to unbind itself, to collaborate with it. That there's more to uncover until that, and each vehicle is different. It may be that for one person, the 8th chapter is it. They come to the fullness of the Brahmanic field. This is Ramana Maharishi. You come to the fullness of the eternal unchanging presence. This is Nigrodhata. This is the Shiva, the principle. And then that's enough. There's no interest in doing any work with the body or taking it deeper or cleaning out the emotional issues, because whatever comes up, it just comes up and then it goes in the Brahmanic field. Nothing is important. But the path that I have traveled is you go further. You go into the content of the collective consciousness that you're a reflection of, and you begin to become an agent, so that the rest of consciousness can come to what you've come to. And this is where the devotion comes. Over here. Tonya, and then you, Erica.
So are you saying that state of consciousness, when it's full of the 8th chapter, that is like the final state of consciousness? It's just the embodiment of it, or the bringing it deeper into matter, that is the continuation of the journey?
That's correct. And this is what the Buddhists teach. The Buddhists takes you to what the 8th chapter speaks of, which is that you come to the state of nirvana. Nirvana is the dissolving into the Brahmanic field. So it is the let me see if I can find the quote. And nirvana is, I would say, that is the fulfillment of this path of awareness. Mm-hmm. It's not the full opportunity of what a human body was brought into existence for, but it is the fulfillment of the consciousness that animates the body.
Mm-hmm. And is that, like the Brahmanic field, is that also the Sat?
Yes. Well, just like I say, Sat Chitananda, it is the, next to the Sat is the Chit. There's a consciousness. So the Sat is prior to consciousness. It's the source of consciousness. When it first comes into existence, the quality of that consciousness is as close to the Sat as consciousness can be. That is the Brahmanic field. But the nature of it, and then from there it goes towards the Ananda. And the Ananda is then the direct experiencing, not just the direct knowing. So initially, there's no knower. There's only that event of directness of the knowledge. It is the directness. The knower and the knowledge are the same. But as it descends back further, deeper into the human system, it becomes more specific knowing. The leaves on the trees is all part of the same oneness. It's all radiant. You look at the fabric of the leaf. It's not that you're analyzing the leaf, but you see the purpose and the formation of the biological structure that leaf is, and can appreciate its relevancy regardless of anything else. So it is a full truth with whatever you're attending to. The whole truth with whatever you're attending to. It's in the grain of sand. It's in the sky. It's in the ocean. It's in everything. The thought that comes up, the feeling, the mood, the burp, the belch, the need to go to the bathroom. It is just, this becomes an opportunity to meet existence. That's the existence is the secret, which allows the Brahman to reveal itself. Okay, wait, I have Erica.
Can I just have...
Yes.
So you went through the process, and then you had the samadhis that came that were unconscious, and that then you'd come back and have to recollect yourself and all of
That's
those
further
things.
down the trap. That's further down the trip. That is after the merger. 15th chapter. The difference between the 8th and the 15th chapter.
Oh, okay.
That's the difference.
And then that's the transformative force that you carry,
Yes.
that you bring into the room, that's tangible, is because of that having happened.
Although a force occurs between the 8th and the 12th chapter, which is the Shakti, which is the God love force that comes through, that can also be a transmission, but it won't have the power, the transformative power of the transmission that occurs after the 15th chapter, because it's after the 15th chapter, it's the embodied Sat, or the Guru force. It's a primal transformative energy. In the God plane, it's still within the gunas. It can lift tamas to rajas and rajas to sattva, but it can't, and it can span sattva, but it can't go beyond sattva.
Okay.
Okay? That's why the 14th chapter on the gunas occurs after the 12th. All right.
Yes. Thank you. I think you just answered this,
Okay.
but I'm going to put it forth in any case.
Okay.
In accessing the Brahmanic field, and I think you just confirmed this, that that in just being in existence and accepting existence, seeing existence, that is the Brahmanic field. That is a presentation.
It's and there's stages of this.
Yeah.
For example, the witnessing of existence is the individual's self beginning to enter into the Brahmanic field. It's getting to be it's a direct knowing, but it has no power within itself yet. It is simply the witnessing power. Oh, look at me, I'm in process. Look at me, I'm getting overtaken. Look at it. Can't change anything. But when you get past the 8th chapter, the Brahmanic field starts changing. What's arising, what you're witnessing. What you're witnessing starts dissolving in the light of the 8th chapter. But it's essentially the same. So you start from where you are, because in a day, you can be in witnessing, and then you can be in the direct knowing, and you can be in variations between the two. And of course, on the spiritual path, you can have glimpses of all the other higher states at different stages, different times. But where you are is the measure of where you are is the depth of the equanimity. That's the measure. No matter how miserable the circumstances are, you're the same. No matter how great the circumstances are, you're the same. No matter how easy or how difficult, how painful or how comfortable, it's the same. That's the measure of what you've actually come to, rather than just the witnessing or the presence. In that equanimity, the more established that is, the brighter, the stronger is the fire that converts what's hidden into what's true. So, but yeah.
Okay.
So in terms of your own experience,
Yes.
that's where you would look. So here you are, you can witness how miserable you are, but you're still miserable. But when you're in the Brahmanic state, you're in direct relationship with how miserable you are. It converts that story of misery into energy. And it's a burning in your body. It's a sensation, or it's a fire, or it's a quality of perceiving, of presence. That's the difference. Okay, good question.
Thank you.
Anything else? All right, who else? Over here, Sheila. All the way on the other side of the room.
Thank you, Erica, for that question, because then the way you spoke to it was really meaningful for me.
Okay.
Two things. One is, when you were first speaking about it, before we started asking questions, you said that in that field there's no interest in being in the world and coming into the world.
There's
Or-
no conscious pull,
To-
one way or another.
Okay.
That's actually, although as you move into it, your interest in the world becomes less and less and less. So that's usually evidence of the Brahmatic state, the presence getting stronger and stronger.
So that's actually what I wanted to ask about.
Okay.
And the way I'm going to phrase it the way I was going to phrase it, because that's probably important. Or purposeful, but not important. it's not that particular experience of the field is not to be confused with when the vital is dropping away and you don't have any motivation and any interest in anything.
Correct. Although that they're different. They're
Yes.
different experience because one is you could say a listlessness. There is a sense of no motive. That's different than the presence. But the dropping, the falling away of the vital, the quieting of the vital is evidence of the coming presence as well. Because otherwise you would be in your enthusiasm or your dislike or your preference. As the Brahmanic field is like, it gets brighter and brighter, then the usual things that motivate us or pull us or push us loses their rule over what we do or feel or see. We become more luminous. It's like watching a movie at a movie theater, the film breaks. And you see the last image become more and more light, brighter light, and then start dissolving until there's just white light. That's the quality of the Brahmanic field coming into your personality. And the nature of it is that initially more darkness gets shown or deeper darkness gets shown before that can establish itself. So the nature of this is two-sided. It's the process that the body still has yet to go through, which concurrently allows the strengthening of the presence, and then the presence accelerates what is still yet hidden, still continues the pushing up of what's still hidden to make room for itself. So it's these two things together. Your bondage wants to be free. Your suffering wants relief. It's seeking, the content itself is seeking to come to the resolution of its bondage, its darkness, its hiding, its ignorance. Ignorance is seeking to know, even though it doesn't know that's what it's seeking. It's seeking ignorantly, but it's still seeking. It's seeking to come out of ignorance, even though ignorance doesn't know it's coming out of trying to come out of ignorance.
The other question I had is, who was it? Was it Blake who wrote about seeing the world in a grain of sand?
Mm-hmm.
So
That was a state of presence.
that's what I wondered.
But he came out of the state of presence and then wrote poetry.
Right.
In the state of presence, there's no poetry.
Right. But those moments of seeing something like that and just it's everything. It's the end, it's the beginning, it's everything.
It's the whole thing and that whatever it is you're perceiving.
That's a small
Yes. Right.
touch of it.
That's just
Yeah.
it's a reflection of the state of consciousness. It has nothing to do with, of course, with the grain
Right.
of sand.
It could
or
be
the
anything.
ocean. Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. Thank you.
So this is what you're looking for, because really you're all in this transition. Even those of you who have had spiritual experiences where you've experienced God and devotion, or even the higher states, you keep falling back into the remaining content. So what you're looking for, the practice is this tuning in to the presence that's available to you. Until that happens, perhaps sitting with me allows you greater access to it. In time, it empowers that quality in you to be yours, and you don't need to be sitting with me. That would be its purpose. So in this way, the quality of presence I am empowers the quality of presence you are. And then together, as we sit together, the quality of the presence in the space for each of us individually is greater than if we were by ourselves. But the point of no return, the evidence of the point of no return is this equanimity. No big deal. The recognition of the purpose, but without the significance. Larry.
I just wonder if there's if there are things that are happening in the feeling sense and in the physical sense, but there are no words that or no mentality involved in it.
Very good.
If that is a part of
Yeah, that would be part of it.
this.
You know, the natural awareness, like the natural awareness you have, awareness has something of the Brahmatic field, but it's not powerful. It's still the witnessing. But that awareness you can become aware of what's going on your relationship to what's going on in your body from the awareness place is different than from the mind or the vital place, which has then, I'm upset, I'm angry, or I'm noticing anger arising, or I'm noticing I'm upset, or my stomach feels nauseous. Those are from mind or vital position. But from the direct position, it's just this energetic event that's occurring in my body. It all becomes energy. Every thought is energy, every feeling is energy, every sensation is energy. So that it all converts ultimately to just an energetic event. When we're free of our addiction to our mind story, when we break out of it enough, then we can begin to witness that this is what's happening. And in time, it becomes real. It's not an abstraction. You see something come up, you go through the turmoil of it, lasts 30 seconds maybe, or maybe it lasts an hour and a half. And then, poof, like nothing ever happened. Like it's gone. What the hell happened to that? All a big deal signifying nothing. It just comes back to this quality of immediacy, returning, and it's not a big deal because the quality of the preference or the higher and the lower isn't there in the Brahmatic field. It's only there in the creation or in the manifestation. But in the Brahmatic field, it's all equal, so it's just what's happening. This is really what the Buddha was teaching. He was teaching, and this is what the non-dual principle, that's behind the non-dual principle. Once this presence is found, then depending upon your system, you'll go further. It won't be you anymore, the person. It'll be the design of the body and the capacity of the system that will determine the manifestation. It'll just happen. And all the qualities of what it has, whatever that unfolding will be, is already there inherent in what you are as a person and a personality in your body, in the same way a seed is the potentiality of an apple or a pear or a watermelon. So we all carry a certain capacity when we blossom, when we bloom. And that determines our manifestation. When we get to a certain point of manifestation, then we're out of our seedhood, right? We're out of being a shoot trying to find its way up. We come into our true nature, but it's not anything we do. It's something that's revealed in the process of the blossoming. So in this context, it all ties together because what's changing is the knower. What's changing is the experiencer. Not that it's changing, it's just coming out of the veils that prevented it from knowing itself. It's coming out of the habit of the shell of itself. It's of its separative seed, and it's coming into discovery of what it actually is. It's empty, it's eternal, it's not significant, it's everywhere, it's all pervading, it's no big deal, and it's also occurring in everything that is just the opposite of what I just said. It's a big deal. It's important. I'm upset. Yeah, I need to change. You got to be different. This has to be this way. It can't be that way. I don't like this. I'm not going to do it. This is making me tired just listening to it. I don't want to hear this. Will he ever stop talking? It's just, whatever that comes forward is happening concurrently in the Brahmanic field. You pay attention. Notice, there it is. Look at that. Something's happening. Okay. I don't know if I'm giving Syrian more time. He's more like me, so I don't want to go into just the nirvana. You got something juicy to come up with? Yeah. All right. Something he wants to say. You need the mic. Awareness beings love this conversation. They eat it up. Experiential beings saying, let's get back to my shit. Let's get back to what I want. Let's get back to what that's juicy. Where's the juicy?
So I wanted to talk about love
Okay.
because
Juicy.
I feel like that's what going forward is from the Brahmanic state.
Yes, that's what the 9th, 10th, and 11th chapters are about, is the development of that, what I call universal personal, where we meet the principles that of the forces and beings that have allowed us to come to the Brahmanic state.
Yeah, there's something like in the neutrality of the Brahmanic state, everything is all equal.
Right.
And then in that, there's something that really stands out, and that's really the cry of a dejected soul.
Yeah.
That's really when I'm in that state and I sense the longing from someone who's truly aspiring.
Yeah.
And really, and recognizing that, seeing that they're already in that state.
Yes.
That's what I perceive.
Yes.
And then there's like this immense sadness, or not really sadness, but like compassion that comes up when it's like, wait, you're not actually experiencing the state that you're in.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, wow, you really need to experience this. Like, this is really a motivating thing for me. All of a sudden, I have all of this motivation.
Right. To try to let them see what it is that they already are. Yeah. And then, of course, they can't see it. And then they feel you're trying to control their experience. And then, they get judged, they get defensive or reactive, and you didn't help at all.
It's like,
so the art of it is to simply enjoy the delight of being able to see their souls striving, to experience that and be the presence to receive that and to hold that. Because two things happen in that. One, you give space for that quality in themselves to show itself. And two, you enhance your ability to let them be able to see it themselves. Presence is the art of this thing. It's simply allowing you to experience what you're perceiving in another to be just like it is. That's true compassion. That's not, it's not until there's a time where the soul will come out and say, I see something in you that I know is important for me. Then you may have, then you just speak. Then you just react. But if that's not there, there's nothing to do. That's the key.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like it would be like trying to change someone or like tell them what's wrong with them or don't you see?
Yeah,
you need to figure this
I got
out.
it. So maybe you're no longer doing that. But the secret of being the presence, for them being how wonderful and extraordinary they are in that moment.
Yeah.
That they don't need to know that. It's
don't
like
need to
telling
know
the
that?
leaf how beautiful you are.
Yeah.
Do you see how interconnected, how just perfect your movement is in the rhythm of the tree and how much you contribute to the tree? It's not relevant to the leaf.
Well, the leaf isn't miserable.
No, well, it's not, yes, right. Who knows, right? The leaf is in misery and it doesn't know it. That's what you might say. Right. Everything in nature is in misery. It just hasn't woken up enough to notice how miserable it is.
It's not
Human beings
to me,
are the part of nature that wake up and discover how miserable they are. Prior to that, we don't know. It's all God's delight, but God's delight from our vantage point might look like terrible misery and suffering. So the nature of the unfolding of what you're seeing is true, by the way. It's true, and it's because your heart is open. But to expand your heart, the art of it is to be in your own experience of what's happening and let them be just where they are, as if they were never going to change, forever. And there's nothing significant in this. That's how you convert the Brahmanic field into dynamic action. Otherwise, your vital will come in and get its juicy payoff in that higher energetic field. You got to catch it, because this is the nature of the Brahmanic. The ego is still there. It's just hidden in the unmet parts of the personality. So when you come out of the Brahmanic field, then you get to meet it. But you bring in all this energy, so you're in a almost godlike state. It's actually transcendent being. The The higher beings in the subtle planes live there. You've been there before. It's who you are. That's where you came from. So it's a familiar territory. But it's a process. There's still ego, being a higher being. And it's the end of the ego. In immediacy, in no past, no future, in the event that's arising at this moment, without a person measuring it or evaluating it or comparing it, is the true state. It's yours personally. When you stay in that state, when you're with someone, you make the biggest difference.
Okay, so not intervening,
Unless
even when they're actually imploring and sort of, it's their aspiration coming to you, and then that's where it gets activated.
you got to see if the person is there with that. See if the listening is there.
Mm-hmm.
You develop the listening by being the presence, because you teach them in the presence more powerfully than in any explanation. So for a new seeker, I'm telling you this because I've been through this whole process that you're going through right now. I'm telling you, I'm showing you a shortcut so that how to actually make the difference you're pulled to make when you meet the cry of the dejected soul. And that is to experience the cry of their dejected soul and be with them, allowing them to be just where they are, not even knowing that they're there, because they're getting it at the place of the soul. Then they'll go out of the room and they'll bring that piece of presence into their life, and it will be able to grow more than if you gave their mind something or gave them a reassurance or a comforting thought. Now, you can see me. I'd make this error all the time. But then I wouldn't have anything to do. And that would be great. And that's probably where it's going. That's why I'm having you all learn this, and then I can stop doing it, and then, I'll go back to just that, always.
But I'm
My
really
retirement.
I'm trying to get, like, what is the factor behind manifestation?
Yes.
Going beyond the Brahmanic field.
Yes. Well, first it's love. Unconditional love. And it expresses itself like it is. This compelling wanting to come out and be there for people. And it's a stage, and you'll go through that stage until it's no longer a big deal. The part of you that is experiencing the love is still human, right? Because you were in suffering. You were a dejected soul. You remember what that felt like. You don't want them to have to go through that. So it's still ego, still personal. So you have to go through this process of compassion to get to that compassionless place, which actually makes the biggest difference for them. And that's the thing you can't see or lay claim to it. It's a bitch, I know. There's no payoff in this work. You only end up feeling you've done it wrong all along. And then you just quit talking, and everybody says, what happened to Shree? Where did he go? Nobody knows.
That's actually the next part of my question is like, why are you talking?
Yes.
Like, what
What's
is
left?
motivating? What's the engine behind
Yeah.
the
The
speaking?
remaining part of this personality. That's what it is. And it's so true for you too. But I'm just telling you where it's headed. So you don't spend any undue time thinking it's significant that you can see the cry of their dejected soul.
Okay, so the whole manifestation and like, I don't know, if we need the 12 and
all that.
the flowering out or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll just leave that as,
Yeah.
we won't explain
We
that.
won't blow that secret yet.
Right. But, so
Probably nobody in this room anyway,
right.
just in case.
So it's not, you're not creating
But
more.
through your sacrifice, maybe it will show up in another room. All right, go ahead.
So it's not like a bunch of people sitting in front of rooms speaking to people. That's not what this...
No, this is completely a byproduct of this personality in this time, in this culture, working with the medium that's currently available, expressing this opportunity, and there will be 0.1% who will actually get it. If I shut up, probably the whole 1% would get it.
Okay, so maybe the outward action that you're sort of like guiding many of us to
Yes,
do
right.
is for our own integration, not so much for like spreading the.
It is simply, some people, well, my teacher said I do not want to be a guru. I never wanted to be a guru. I'm only a guru for you. That's what he told me. I'm only a guru for you. But you can be the guru. Because it's where all the shit is, right? It's where all the details are. It's all the things that are still resisting. It's working down there in the content. But what am I? I am truth working in the content. I am that fire that's working here explaining to you what it is that where you are on the journey. I'm the fire that's saying, see, this is significant. And so that this becomes significant. And when you read this words, the presence of what I am goes into the significance that you can now assign to these words. And that allows for it to penetrate. The paradox that it is both useless and useful. That it both is effective and not effective at all. To be able to be in that place of working out what's left in the design of your vehicle is, and recognizing that nothing is, it's actually probably not even working as effectively as it could, and doing it anyway until you can no longer do it, is what the sacrifice is that allows for the work to manifest.
Yeah, I can totally just tune right into
Yeah.
the tirelessness that you know, week after week.
Yes.
You're just rephrasing everything in this different ways, the same
Correct.
thing in the different ways.
Yeah.
And it's like, there's no other reason to live. There's no other thing to be doing.
It's just another immediacy. It's another variation, but it's organized. It's organized, directed to the same kind of human consciousness I am, so that it can get attuned to what it is I've become, even though it's nothing that I am saying, it's what I'm demonstrating. So the nature of the real royal knowledge is hidden in the secret that we're separate. The apparency of a problem. That is the secret, is we think there's something to get to. But that is how we get to it, is by bringing out the whatever secret is in any one moment. So in this moment, I went right to, I spoke the secret tonight. I'm speaking the secret. Presence. Presence is a secret. These are its attributes. This is the qualities of it. This is how to find it in your own experience. Is this useful? 0.1% is useful. Now, I mean, for each of you. And if you get enough 0.1%, you got a whole percent. So each time I do a talk, you get a little bit more. And at some point, you'll be living in that state without knowing you're living in that state. And they may have all pointed out to you, look you're the Brahman. Oh, look you're in the 14th chapter. Good for you. Huh? I thought I was really in a crap place. That's because you're working in the universal now. You're no longer working with your own shit. That's what happens when you graduate. It gets worse. And I feel better. Because now I'm not doing it all by myself. You're carrying some of the shit too. So I'm so grateful. Okay, go forward.
Satya, there's no choice, is there?
Well, there's the apparency of choice, and that's everything. The apparency of choice of the individual is what collaborates. And it's that unique paradox, because it is the supreme bound that has choice. It is the sought bound that actually could choose in its bound condition, because in its unbound condition, there's nothing to choose. And it's that choosing to align itself with its true nature that allows for it to accelerate in its manifestation in your particular form. But when it's all said and done, there was nothing in it for you. And that's what the Gita points to. You take all this labor, you go through this whole process, you keep striving and keep trying to be a more perfect expression of it, but in the end, there's nothing in it for you. That's what the Gita is saying. Don't get attached to the result. It's just trying to tell you that the secret is low expectations, because it ain't going to be what you expect. So that's the paradox, concurrently occurring paradox. Okay, who has the mic?
So you spoke about presence and it's burning everything, and I can really relate to that. That things comes up and it kind of
Poof.
There's
A ray gun.
There's no work anymore. Yeah.
Yeah. You know those what was it? War of the Worlds, where they came in and they set the ray and people went poof.
Yeah.
That's what your issues become. They go
Exactly.
poof, burned in
So
this laser ray.
so presence is there, and you said something when you were talking to Syrian that really caught my mind, and that was you talked about love, and I can sense that the human love, the warmth and the sentimentality and all
that
this
intimacy
compassion in one
and-
sense, but the one part of compassion here is I feel sorry for them and I want to help them.
Yes, that's what Syrian was talking
Exactly.
about too. Right.
But when I meet people and I'm just standing there as a mirror of this presence, I also see that that's completely unconditional love.
Correct.
So
It's a
what's the
more-
difference here?
Yes.
Because you said that
Mhm.
presence, that's number 9 or whatever we call
Right.
it, and love is 10, 11, and 12. So
Mhm.
can you expand something about
Yeah, it's the nature of the love. So what happens with the quality of presence, you come to being able to be with what is being experienced individually. By the way, you're the one that travels the journey. No one else travels the journey. You individually. I'm still traveling my journey. You're showing up in my journey. Till I die, this is the journey of this form. So all that counts is what you're experiencing. So if you're in touch with the love for people, you're experiencing the love and the compassion in your body, and you're taking the word love away. You take away the motive, you take away future, you take away past, you just have that immediacy. Then what that person who you're experiencing the love through your attention is getting the reflection of their divine possibility more effectively than you giving them a brace or being compassionate or holding their hand or talking to them while they're coming down out of their process.
So part of that is when I meet someone and they are sharing something and I feel it in my body
Yes.
and still stay with my presence and
Yes.
allow that to kind of burn.
Yes.
Is that what you were talking
That's the
about?
most effective. When you start talking, it's incidental.
Yeah.
The meal is the meeting of what you're experiencing in your body of their issue. That's
Because-
really where things are
Because
changing.
that is the remnants in me.
Yes, that's the remnant
The
in
match.
you. Yes. And in time, there won't be any match.
Yeah.
You get enough exposure in that, the body, if it survives, will be able to become transparent, and it will be able to be just the presence eating up the secrets, the darkness, the poisons, and it will not even know it's doing it.
Yeah.
But the people will find they're in new consciousness. They will shift. They'll feel free. They'll become, at least for a short period of time, they'll move into that same vibrational state, and that teaches more than anything else. Even if you can't remember what happened to you, which you usually don't. Again, Sheila. We're okay.
So I had a Skype call today, 2 actually, and in the first one, about a quarter of the way through, I noticed that all of a sudden I could just feel everything drop into my heart, and it was just boom.
Good.
So at the end of the call, I told the person that
Mm-hmm.
because I told her.
That's what it wants to do.
Right.
That's what love wants to do. It wants to give itself over. That's not yet presence. Your experience of presence may have brought the love, but the love activated the human that wants to help. That's what Sattva wants to do. It wants to help.
Right.
Yeah.
And So what you're saying is it would have been, in this context, better just to feel it.
Yes, just
Right.
feel it.
And probably the reason I wanted to share it was not, oh, look, I'm cool, I can feel this, but because I wanted her to know that it was because of what she was talking about, you know?
Yes, I
That was the
understand.
help part.
Yes,
right?
to empower her
Yes.
to know
Yes.
what was going on for you. But
In talking with
in
her.
and then she'll say, "How come I'm not like her?
Oh, I didn't think of that part.
Yeah, how come I can't feel what she's feeling?" And then she walks away feeling, "Oh, well, I'm really far along. I'm never going to get anywhere."
Okay.
You see,
Okay.
I mean, we don't know how we're defeating people by sharing our experience
Yeah.
if they're not able to match it.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Isn't that why you say hold on to it?
Yeah, get the microphone. It's fine, but we want to record these 30 seconds because every second is a now.
Now I'm manifesting in this moment. Okay. So isn't that why you're saying just hold it inside
Correct.
and let it expand?
That's correct. Because if you hold it, it moves. Because they're not capable of moving. They're stuck in the secret. They're stuck in the lie. They're stuck in the dirt. If you can experience who they are, then their ability to experience themselves comes automatically to them. In that moment, in the moment you felt the love for them, that was the shift for them. You feel it before they can feel it. Then you'll meet, in time, you'll meet someone who, when you feel it, they'll also feel it. And then you'll say, wow, that was cool. But what it is, the person with the greater presence is the one who's initiating the shift. And also, this has something to do with the responsibility. So when someone is given the task of doing the Skype calls, is that you're the one who is the responsible for what arises. You're holding the space, the presence, for whatever is going to occur in that half-an-hour conversation with the person. And the idea, there are multiple dimensions to this, right? But there is also their ability to be exposed to the quality of presence that you have. And since anyone who's doing this work for me is a channel for my presence, your presence is enhanced at that moment so that you get to experience something of what I am in that moment with that person. So this ability to hold presence and not give it away is something I've come to, but you don't need to travel this whole messy journey to come to the same place, because it's actually very simple when you just can stay in your own experience when you're with someone.
I'm going to ask the next question then.
Yeah.
This also applies to us in our own process in that moment.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Because in that moment, it'll be your match, it'll be your compassion, it'll be the structure in you that wants to be needed, it'll be whatever it is that got activated when you met them.
I'm referring to me dealing with my own poo, not with...
Not with anybody else.
Right.
Yeah, I got it.
But that's the same thing as what you're saying.
It's the same thing. What happens when it feels like I'm dealing with my content, you're still in the witnessing. The presence hasn't gathered enough strength. Otherwise, you would be the process, and then it would disappear.
Okay.
The nature of being a witness of the process, there's still an evaluator. There's still, I shouldn't be having this. Or more and more, this is still happening to me. Why isn't it different? That's the witness. It doesn't have a lot of authority. When the presence is able to be with the content, you'll feel the feeling full blown. It won't have the separation of witnessing. It'll be full blown, and then it disappears. It'll be the grief, the sadness, the anger, the nausea, the depression, the whatever, but it will burn. That's the measure. So, but the principle is the same. It's just the effectiveness is what changes. Okay, behind you.
Because it seems like in the holding of, like what Sheila was talking about or what Syrian was talking about, so we're burning out the desire, our own desire.
To make it, to help somebody.
Whatever it is for. And I think that is the piece that people will have a reaction to of like, you're trying to impart something on me. You're trying to, even if it's coming from a place of total love and total compassion, and I can see that that's where it's coming from in myself or in Syrian or however, but there's this vital push to it that is like, that the other person then reacts to and is then not able to receive what's being offered. And I think that's what's the difference, because you have burned that out. So there's still, the reason you're talking is the habit of your human embodiment, but it's not the vital push
It's
and the
not
desire.
me doing it. The
Yeah.
universe is just spinning this machine.
And so then
It's
there's
just
no
using
effect.
This mouth. Yes.
There's-
and therefore there's ability to receive it
Yeah.
for what it is. So this is showing the process. So like in the case of Arjuna, what Arjuna now needs to do is discover how to be the presence for someone else. So this will then expand his ability to be the presence for himself. So part of my training program is to bring people into opportunities where they are the presence for someone else, learning to be the presence for someone else, therefore empowering you to come to presence. So I use all the people who come who don't get this as collateral damage for your training, as fodder for your cannon. It is really meant to assist you in coming to the presence of what you are. So this is what I'm recognizing as the opportunity of residential program. So you all get to be fodder for somebody else's progress, but it doesn't make any difference because you're benefiting from the process of their unfolding as well. So really, we're all fodder. We're all just props, targets for the target practice of life, to be shot at and beat up and punched holes in, as long as there's something to be beat up and punched holes in. Once that's gone, then it's just being shot, and there's nobody there who's having a problem with that.
I have a question. So, I don't know if this even fits in this conversation, but there's been a period of time where we've talked about this, that not to approach somebody or to be compelled to say something, but to wait until they approach you.
Correct.
And so by then, and actually I think even with the Skype calls, those people have given permission.
Yes. It's all relative to the agreement.
Right.
The agreement of the structure of the situation, a Skype call, a small group, someone's coming to, it's the nature of the agreement. If someone is coming to you, giving you the authority for what they're bringing forward, then you have a role to play. I'm assuming that's there. Your role is to be be the presence for what they have to bring. How skillful, maybe what words you use or don't use, that will vary as you become more capable. But, for example, the thing I'm learning is questions. When you're the presence for someone, asking questions is more effective than giving answers. But I've gone a long time without knowing that. So I'm the answers guy. So I've done it that way for long enough that I can begin to recognize that actually the questions were the most useful part of whatever I've done. Now there's something else. There's this. There's what's happening that's coming into the room. So what's happening in having this conversation or any conversation is that at everything that's coming, I usually just take a title, because they'll always ask me, how do I title this recording? So I'll take a title, and then I'll have whatever happens happen. So it's always original. It's always fresh. It's always the thing itself that's coming into the room. And it's not like a strategy in itself, other than the nature of the Guru force is it's pushy. It accelerates. It pushes the process. It doesn't just allow to be. So when you're the guru, you're going to discover yourself being pushy. But it's because you can be effective and pushy. Because there's nothing there. It's the universe pushing. So this is the thing that you get to. That the way you are, exactly as you are, is what's effective. But the problem with being the guru or being someone who is the intervening is it's pushy. Therefore, it can get caught up into the entanglement of the human story and conversation and authority and position and higher and lower. And that's why no awakened being wants to be a guru. Because you become part of the problem. Because the only way you can do this work is to enter into the problem. To be a demonstration of the problem, but you're coming from a different place than everybody else who does the same thing. And how can you tell? People come to presence. People come to a deeper relationship with the truth of who they are. People break out. They move some crap. They move some dirt. They more readily shift to the reality of what they are. So the evidence is right there. And it's not something the teacher has to say or the guru has to say. You discover it yourself. That's why people hang around Muji or anybody who has the capacity to step in and push the process. I know it. I had a teacher who was, I really couldn't tolerate being around, especially the longer I was with him. And I can identify all the stages you have to go through to be able to become that. Because you have to meet that. You have to meet the part in you that doesn't want to surrender, that doesn't want to accept, that is still in resistance, that still thinks the guy's wrong, that still can't tolerate hearing somebody telling you the same thing again and again. It's actually just energy. And it keeps pushing the limits of what you can tolerate to be with. And if you can stay in that field long enough, you'll become the guru. Because you will no longer be limited in what you can be with. You can be the bad guy. You can be the bad guy. That's what Arjuna became. He became the bad guy. He killed all these great people. Some of them they had some flaws because they thought the Pandavas were the problem, but they were pretty much great people in their own right. Killed them all. Walked away, no guilt, no doubt, no reservation. Sociopathically walked away from this whole carnage. Went off, had a Mai Tai, sat on the beach, said, He was completely playing his part without any attachment to the outcome as a manifestation principle of what we're speaking of tonight. So it's good to have a context. And this is the great thing about me being this way and having the Gita to point to. Because this isn't unique. This isn't mine. This is mankind's journey. But our minds have been too bound in dogma and tradition and beliefs and lesser training levels of information. So we have to burn out and come to the immediacy of what's happening. Because if you can come to the present, if you can come to the direct knowing, you'll see it for yourself. You'll be doing this for yourself. Okay. That was fun. Yeah. No, worse is forward. Now you're going to go back. You're going to go and start digging. Clearing out the basement and the garage and the closets and the excess husband and children and... Okay, I got to pull it in. All right, can we turn down these lights? Okay. Ooh, nobody's here anymore.